Hi, I'm Robert Kesten, Executive Director of Stonewall National Museum, Archive, and Library, based in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And we are doing many, many different things, but one of our big focuses for 2025 is kickstarting our women's division, which is called the National Stonewall Women's Fund. And we're looking to start chapters in 5 different regions across the United States. And with that, we're going to be doing some unique programming in those 5 areas. And we're hoping that it will expand beyond that. In addition, on March 1st, we have our annual gala. And at that annual gala, we'll be inducting Edie Windsor into our Standing on the Shoulders of Heroes traveling exhibit. And then on March 8th, we open our Women's History exhibit, which will be entitled Edie Windsor, Marriage Equality, and the Supreme Court. And so it's really a chock full of women period of time for us. And it's ironic or not that today's interview will be with the founder of Curve Magazine and the Curve Foundation. So, Franco Stevens, welcome to our conversation, and we'll be discussing the film that is about you and Curve.
Thanks, Robert. It's so good to be here.
So, tell me, in the film, it does explain why you started the magazine, but some of the people that will see this will not have watched the film at this point. So, what are the things that made you feel that this was something that was important and valuable to your community?
Well, let me start off by saying I didn't think anybody would want to watch this film. I didn't realize that it would be on almost every airline carrier last year. It would be on, it's still on Netflix now up until April, so people can watch it if they want. My wife, who's a filmmaker, would listen to me tell these stories to our kids as bedtime stories. The kids would always be like, "Go tell me the time, you started the magazine by, you know, cashing out a bunch of credit cards and going to the horse races." And she kept saying, "I really want to tell this story. I think it's important that people know what what it was like to start this lesbian magazine, and to run it for however many years that I did." So it was really her. It wasn't really me. I was like, nobody's going to want to watch this. I was
So you're
completely
still
surprised when they did.
so you're still surprised,
I'm still surprised. Yeah, I'm still surprised.
and yet it's many thousands of people.
Yes.
And have you gotten responses from those people?
Oh, yeah. I've gotten a lot of letters, not only from the film, but over the course of the magazine from viewers and readers telling me how much the film and the magazine have impacted their lives, or like a lot of younger lesbians who weren't around when Curve was a print publication, just saying, I had no idea. I had no idea that this was here. Um, and thank you for contributing this. It's incredible because, you know, the climate today, I think, has shifted because of what happened with Curve magazine.
And yet the climate keeps changing,
Yes.
and we don't know which direction the wind is blowing right now. Um, Print magazines, no matter what, are not doing extraordinarily well. Online magazines, I don't know how most of them fare because the ability to raise significant amount of sums is much more difficult digitally than it was when it was print.
Hmm.
But you certainly have a niche and an awful lot of people who are interested in what the community is doing across the country, if not across the country and around the world. And with the expansion of including non-binary, and others, your pool keeps growing because we keep hearing that more and more young people consider themselves to fall into those categories. So, in that respect, you answer the needs literally of potentially millions of people, not only in the United States, but around the world. And that's a real responsibility as well as running a business.
Sure, it is. You can't be everything to all people, right? Um, we had to pick our lane, and I created a publication that I wanted because it was information I was looking for myself. When I started the magazine, I got this great idea, and somebody should do it. Somebody should do it. Somebody should do it. Oh, I guess that should be me. And at the time I was 22 years old, I had no idea how to start or run a magazine. And I had no money. And the film starts off at that point, where, how does this knuckleheaded kid go from having this idea to, now we're 34 years later and it's still making an impact. It's crazy. I mean, the first issue didn't even of the magazine didn't even have the year on it. We couldn't even imagine, oh yeah, there'll be a next year for this thing. So yeah, it's been kind of a wild ride for sure.
So early in the film, it talks about the strained relationship you had with your mother.
Mm.
And
Who
then
is
as the
now
film
my
progresses,
greatest advocate and is sitting across the room from me right now and is in the movie. And I wish all parents could watch that to see, you know, if they started out being concerned about their child's well-being when they came out, that there's a path through it. And we have the most amazing relationship now, but it wasn't always that way. It was really, really hard for her when I gave up. I was in a heterosexual marriage. I was kind of living this, um, the dream of any parent, and that just wasn't my path. So, um, yeah.
so part of it was the disappointment of the marriage failing as well as the coming out, or was it just the coming out?
I think it was all rolled into one, definitely. Um, I think it was also them thinking like, oh, well, what did we do? And then now you look back and my mom's like, how did I not always know? This is like crazy. So, um, you know, I think parents have their own expectations for kids. And
Absolutely.
when they never, you know, I mean, so few of us live up to all those expectations. It's really learning to love and meet your kids where they are. So I try to keep an open mind because now I have kids of my own,
How old are your kids?
22 and 24.
Yeah, mine are 30 and 31, almost 32. So it's
Crazy. It's like great having adult kids. I love it.
well, then you can actually talk to them about things rather than
Hmm.
about doing something. Yes, it does change. It does change. And it's wonderful for your mother to have grandchildren
Oh, yeah.
that are
She's
your
got,
children,
yes. Hmm. Yeah,
because
because I
that's
think
another
that was
thing that
part
parents
of,
worry about,
hmm, definitely.
that whole idea of family and that you won't have a family.
I think that's going by the wayside now as more and more of our community are having kids. I think parents are realizing, oh, yeah, they're going to get some grandkids out of the deal.
So the trajectory of the film follows you from, like you said, maximizing the credit cards, going to the track and crazily betting everything and winning and then betting the whole thing again. Uh, that's really gutsy. And it's courageous and crazy at the same time. And how did you feel? What was going on in your head and your stomach when you were doing that?
I just had this feeling like this is meant to be. And one of the lines that people seem to resonate with that I say in the movie is like, once I kept winning, I was like, yes, God must be a lesbian. It was when you're that young, you also think a little bit like, well, if I have to go bankrupt, eh, I've come from nothing. What is it? What's the difference? So I always feel like creating the magazine was taking a risk the entire time.
Was there a sense of liberation in taking those kinds of risks?
I don't know if liberation is the word I would use. Hmm. Maybe, maybe it's what I felt like I had to do because nobody else would invest in this dream. And it was more of, hey, we got to go all out. If we want this thing, I got to be willing to put everything on the line. And at that point, I didn't have any kids. I didn't own a house. I mean, risking everything seemed like just what I was supposed to do to make this thing fly. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't doing it by myself. There was an amazing group of women, some of them who have been by the magazine side for 34 years.
But it was your investment financially,
Right. Yes.
and it was your brainchild.
Yes. I can't take
And
all the credit for it though. I
no, no,
mean,
no. But the point is, which is interesting is that if you didn't do what you did, even with all their support, even with their partnerships, even with their commitments, there may not have been a magazine.
right.
So
There would not have
that's
been a Curve
impressive.
magazine. There would not have been a
Right.
Curve magazine.
And that I think that that's really something to be proud of because you created not only a legacy for yourself, but you created the opportunity for them to create legacies for themselves as well.
I love that. Thank you for saying that. I like to believe that.
I don't see how you could even deny it. It was as a print magazine, it was very special, and we have some of them in our archives, so we know how special they are. And online today, you answer the need of millions of women across this country. And I think that although its focus obviously is on lesbians and now binary and whatnot, but I think that it really is a space where any woman can go and find things of interest and of help in trying to navigate a world where women are not always treated equally. So I think that you really do, for people who will go to that site who are not lesbians, uh, offer a lot of things that people can use regardless of gender, regardless of orientation. And that's impressive.
Thanks. We really try.
Well, I think from the times that I've gone there, it's impressive. And when you watch the film, you get an idea of the intelligence and the integrity that went into this whole process. So your wife was really smart to make the movie because it answers so many things for so many people.
Mm.
And to see that determination, I think, is such an important thing for young women to see. because you truly took something out of nothing and made it into something that's truly amazing.
I really believe that one person can make a huge difference. I was 22 years old and I had this idea that somebody else should do it, and finally came to the realization that if you act and not just complain, things can happen. And that's a lesson for, I think, everybody.
Absolutely. So, what do you feel for you after all these years, over 30 years, has been the most rewarding part of this entire experience? If you can even find one or two things.
Oh, it's definitely having made a positive impact on people. So I've received letters saying that I've saved people's lives, that the magazine saved people's lives. It helped them feel less alone. And um, so now Curve, if you watch the movie, you'll know Curve is now part of the Curve Foundation, which is a nonprofit. And one of the things we do is a learning and community group on Facebook called the Curve Community. And still having that connection to our readers is really important to me. And in this day of everything's electronic, everything is virtual, it's very easy to lose sight of personal, real connections. And with the magazine, we used to go across the country. The only way to reach people before the internet was to go out and meet the women where they were. So we'd literally pack up the magazines in vans and go from city to city, town to town, house parties, bookstore readings, nightclubs, to hand the magazine to people where they were. And so to have that connection and have people still to this day say, your work saved me. And now to have people say, this community or the work you're doing saves me, has made me feel less alone. It's nothing better than that.
I absolutely agree. Um, do you sort of wish there was still a need for people to connect in real time, in real space, the way you did when you drove cross country with boxes of magazines, or do you think that the internet replaces that significantly enough?
I think that the need for real human connection is real. Nothing can replace it. If you remember back to when we were in the heat of the pandemic and you can only see your friends virtually, um, that was very isolating for a lot of people. The only people that I think really got it, or one of the few people that really like, were the disabled community, because they suffer that separation um, all the time. So I'm in a wheelchair, and sometimes I want to go to a party and it's upstairs, even though it's in real life, it's not something that I can do. And I sometimes feel like, um, I miss that human connection because I'm not able to get up that flight of stairs or whatever.
Now, I would take it that you share that in the magazine as well.
Um, did I share that I'm disabled, or that I
No,
share
but
that?
share that sense of loneliness, that you trying to do something that you just physically cannot do. Uh, because sharing that just like you did now, I'm sure gives people that have a disability that sense that even with that, look what you have accomplished
Mm,
and look where you have gone with your life. And I think that that's important. Like my son has disabilities and he's going to be 32 in April. And now, for the first time over the last maybe 3 years, he's been willing to go out and he walks across the street and he goes to stores and he introduces himself and he knows people in the community. And at least once a week, he'll say, I got friends here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like almost like it's an amazing thing that
Mm-hmm.
he's so surprised by. And I think that when other people know those accomplishments and how hard they are for people who can't do that the way people that do not have those interferences,
Mm-hmm.
it's a really good learning thing. And you do so much in the magazine with helping people understand psychologically things, family relationships and all of those. I was just wondering if that has ever been a topic.
Oh yeah, I mean, we've been covering disability, stuff for years and years and years. And, you know, I can't, there's this idea of intersectionality that we all are familiar with, that I bring my full self anytime I go someplace. So I bring my full self as a woman, as a lesbian, as a disabled person. Um, it's just part of who I am and how I represent. So, uh, I can say I maybe have the advantage of having my disability be visual, as a lot of people have invisible disabilities, which are, I think, very, very challenging. Um, so I think that we consider that throughout the publication, throughout the foundation, throughout the mission of the magazine. Another thing we really look at is connecting uh, intergenerationally, not only from old to young, young to old, but both ways. I think that we can all learn a lot from each other.
Absolutely. So, out of the growth of the magazine came the foundation.
Mm.
And the foundation,
I,
yeah, go ahead, please.
oh, what I was going to say was, okay, so um, I became disabled, horribly disabled. I suffer from a lot of pain. It caused me to have to sell the magazine. And this is all in the movie, so if people watch it, they'll see kind of what went on. Um, and the movie starts out actually with me getting a phone call from the owner of the publication, the publisher, who's a lesbian publisher based in Australia, saying, I think it's the end for Curve. I can't make it roll anymore. Print publications are just in the toilet. Um, and we were filming because we were on location filming about something else for the movie. And I get this call and I'm like, oh, whoa, this is crazy. And my wife was just like, we should buy the magazine back and create a nonprofit and give the magazine to the people. So I don't own the magazine. The magazine is a nonprofit. And uh, I don't remember what your original question was, but I thought that that was important to say.
I said, out of the magazine, which you just basically said, came the foundation, which
Right,
now is the magazine in a sense.
right.
So, which obviously is in the film because it all happened while you were filming. And what are the primary responsibilities aside from doing the magazine of the foundation?
Well, the foundation has a few main programs, and one is really elevating the journalists within our community. So we have this Curve Fellowship for Emerging Journalists, where we take early career stage journalists, and whether it's print or news media, digital, or photojournalists, it's across the board, and we take them into a program that mentors them, connects them, gives them a lot of avenues to meet and expand and do the work for our community. Um, for example, our cohort members have gone on to work at ESPN, the New York Times, the Associated Press. This project has become really one of our key principles of elevating our community. Because if we're not telling our stories from our original voices, first off, nobody's going to be telling our stories, or they're going
Right.
to be telling them incorrectly. So it's all about funding. If we had more funding, we could elevate even more journalists. So right now we had just started our fourth cohort, 5 journalists in each cohort. So we do that. We do Curve Magazine. That's also part of the journalism piece, and we have Curve Connections, which are all these community building things that we do throughout the year. So not only do we have the Curve community on Facebook, which I talked a little bit about, but we do book clubs and film clubs and learning experiences, both online and in person. We offer the full archive 30 years of Curve Magazine, which anyone can go on for free. At this point, all of our products are free to anyone who wants to watch them. So you want to show up at a Curve Book Club, it's free. You want to watch one of our screenings, it's free. We also host Lesbian Visibility Week for the entire United States, which is a huge undertaking. We last year we did 60 events across the country, and this year we're looking to elevate that. And we're going to have our first ever Queer Women in Sports Day, where we connect sports teams with the fans, with the new women's sports bars. It's really looking like a cool project. So I'm excited for that. So if you're interested in Lesbian Visibility Week for 2025, it's April 21st through 27th.
And are there places that are already organized and events already organized?
Yeah, there's a lot of things in the works. If folks go to lesbianvisibilityweek.org, they can see, we just have a couple of events there. We'll start to populate that as the time goes forward. But I want to encourage people, if they have an idea for an event or want to get involved, we're a community-based organization. We'd love to help out with that. We need sponsors. If you know of any sponsors, last year we had everything from small local sponsors all the way up to national organizations and businesses that helped us do the work to get the word out. We had 2 years ago, we had Lesbian Visibility Week announced in the White House through a press conference. That was really cool. Last year in London, we had the famous BT Tower had Happy Lesbian Visibility Week across it, rotating around in a big circle. We had City Halls lit up in the colors of the lesbian flag. And if you don't know what the lesbian flag looks like, just another reason we need Lesbian Visibility Week. It's all about celebrating the women who choose to embrace the term lesbian and those who embrace it for other people in the community. So you do not need to be a lesbian or identify as a lesbian to celebrate and uplift the parts of our community that embrace that term.
And what are some of the other things the foundation does?
We talked about the community gatherings. We talked about the archive. I would love for people, if you go on the archive, you can actually click open a magazine and see what was going on in the community, say in April of 2000. And you can look back at that specific time and say, these are the books that were popular. These were the celebrities that were being, out and proud for our community. These are the fashion trends that were going on. You can read about the activists that were improving our situation back then. And then the journalist component.
And you also have your Curve Power List.
Oh yeah. Well, the Curve Powerless is kind of a flagstone of Lesbian Visibility Week. So right now we have the Curve Powerless 2025 nominations are open and they're free. And the Curve Powerless is a celebration of LGBTQ plus women and non-binary people who are creating seismic shifts in the United States. They're shaping our policy, they're creating social change, everything from sports and entertainment icons, corporate leaders and politicians. These people are really breaking barriers, they're challenging norms. So if you know a person like that, you've got to nominate them because it's all community nominated. So if you want somebody to have that honor, just nominate them. They have nothing to lose except 5 minutes of your time.
And how many Curve Power people are there each year?
The first power list was 50 individuals. So this year we'll do between 50 and 75. So technically it's been 50, but this year we've added a corporate ally. So people that don't necessarily have to be within our community, but are still fighting for our rights and equal protection and visibility. So the Curve Foundation is the only national nonprofit that's championing LGBTQ plus women and non-binary people's stories and culture. And we do it from that intergenerational perspective. So what I mean by that is, say we have a panel on, say, archives or let's say lesbian herstory archives. We would have like the founder, like Joan Nessel, but we'd also have somebody younger that's either volunteering, working, or utilizing their archives in that panel discussion to see how it's influencing the next generation and how we can bridge that gap.
That's certainly interesting, especially since we also are an archive.
That's why I mentioned it.
And we are working towards absolute parity between men and women in the archive and the library and our exhibits.
And from what I hear, you're doing a great job. You're doing a really great job with that. So keep up that
Thank you.
work.
It's, I sort of, from our perspective, looked at the success of Black women in Atlanta and how they motivated a whole country just a few years ago. And so part of me believes that by engaging women, we have the potential to once again excite our entire community and those who are comfortable and supportive of the community. And so that's why we're doing what we're doing in that arena, creating these chapters so that there will be an engine and there'll be multiple engines across the country. So
That's
I'm
wonderful.
hoping that they'll work closely with you as well, because the more people who work together, the stronger the community is. And certainly you're a perfect role model.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. One thing we're doing for Lesbian Visibility Week, which is a super easy lift, is that on Tuesday, the 22nd of April, we're encouraging as many people as possible, as many organizations as possible to get a lesbian flag, take some photos with it, send us those photos, post them on your socials, and raise the lesbian flag wherever you can. A very easy lift. But anyone else who wants to get involved, they can just reach out through our website. I mean, we have a whole planning committee. It's all community based. It's a great way to meet people, both locally and across the country, and do some pretty cool stuff. Like we got proclamations read and presented to some of our volunteers across the country in different cities last year. They got to join us at some national events. And I don't think we'll be invited back to the White House this year. Something just tells me.
I can see tea with Melania. It has a certain ring to it. How does the foundation support itself?
So the foundation supports itself by public donation. So we take donations on our website. It's incredibly important if somebody could give, say, $50 a month. That way we know how much we have going forward for our budgeting so that somebody would spread out their donation as a monthly give instead of a one-time gift. But we take donations as small as $1. So for instance, for Valentine's Day, somebody could give $14 and show us their love. It would be really helpful. We also, dive into the grant writing, and we had some corporate seed funding, and my wife and myself also put up a decent chunk of change every year because I believe you have to put your money where your mouth is.
Very true. Very true. How, well, where do you see this going in the next 5 years? I mean, considering the next four could be particularly difficult.
We're in the unique position to do something really positive in a time of what seems like it's going to be incredibly negative. I think our community is going to need a real lifeline, and I'm hoping that Curve can be part of that. And we're not the political engine that's we're not the National Center for Lesbian Rights. We're not HRC. We hold our own place in our community, and I'm hoping that we can continue to do what we've done in the past, is it be there for our community and uplift them.
And there's just so when you talk about uplifting and you look out, is there a focus, or is it just broad? Are you going to target or look at specific things?
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to elevate the journalists to tell our stories. We're going to connect the community that we support, and we're going to fight for our visibility. Those are the three things, and we're going to boost that up. We're putting a skyrocket on that. So, and in order to do that, we just need more funding. In a time where people are holding on to their dollars, it's even more important now to fund, whether it be the Curve Foundation or Stonewall. It's very important to fund the organizations that are doing the work in our community, because they can't survive. We can't survive without public, private donations. Without the people who are listening to this donating, there would be no organization like Curve
or Stonewall. No, it's very true. And being that we're in Florida, we have already lived through some of the experiences that much of the country may find themselves in over the next few years. In fact, our governor has already called a special session of the legislature to already figure out how to get rid of people who are in the country not with legal documents. So even before there's an inauguration, this governor is already working on it. It's And I believe it's a state legislator is also proposing legislation to make homeless shelters illegal. So the juxtaposition between what you're doing, telling people they're okay no matter who they are, and making an effort to meet them where they are, versus government, which is intended to protect and help people get to where they can be safe, could not be more different.
Sad. It, it for our community and many others, the crisis is upon us again. When we got marriage equality, so many people thought, hey, you're all good. That's it. We're done. We got to, and I kept saying, no, take a look. And now people are really taking a look because it's scary.
But yet, your enthusiasm and your tenacity certainly should give people pause that things will get better again. And I think that the legacy of the community is that when it gets tough, we come out stronger on the other side. You know, AIDS should have knocked us for even worse than it was, and it was bad. But on the other side of AIDS, we had organizations and healthcare reforms and a host of things that happened that made us a much stronger community. And all the other fights from before Stonewall, through Stonewall to where we are today, surprisingly, this community rebounds and rebounds in a way that few others have consistently. But then on the other hand, every one of those other communities is found in our community.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that makes our community unique and more resourceful because you can find everybody here.
Right. I love that perspective. I'm going to borrow that, okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if it was my conversation and not yours, and I'm trying not to talk so much, I would tell you about our new rainbow philosophy, but that will have to wait for another time.
Oh, I really want to hear that.
Uh,
So I'm going to hold you to that.
anytime, anytime. I would work with you hands down.
Hey, can I go back just real quick to Ahead of the Curve, the movie that's on Netflix right now?
Absolutely.
Because even if turning on the film on Netflix sends a clear message to them, the decision makers, that queer stories should be programmed. You turn it on for 5 minutes and go to sleep, they don't know. They just see it will move up in the queue. It will get reprogrammed. But more importantly, other queer programming, it sends a message. The gatekeepers, they know this, right? What is having people tune into? And watching those queer films on platforms like that makes a huge difference. So I want to encourage everyone, and I'm not just saying it because I want you to watch this movie, although it would be cool if you did.
And it's really
With the
worth
queer,
watching. It
oh,
really gives
thanks.
a tremendous perspective of all you accomplished, but even more importantly, what it does for the community as a whole. And I think for that reason alone, it's entertaining and educational, and fun. And many of you have really good senses of humor, and you had to in order to get through all of that.
Yeah, there's some crazy rides in that movie, and I don't want to give it all away. But like you said, betting all the money on the horse races. How about getting sued by a certain French actress who I will remain nameless? All that stuff is just, I think, well told. I didn't have anything to do with the filming, but I think they did a great job. So I hope everyone watches it.
So say the name of the film again.
Ahead of the Curve, now on Netflix.
I don't want anybody to miss that, and we will edit this tape and put it out online and advertise the heck out of it so that anybody and everybody will have the opportunity to see you on multiple screens multiple times, and it will um, be announced in our newsletters when the version is ready to go out, and it will be on our YouTube channel and then rest forever in our digital archives. So hopefully they'll still be able to get the movie, even then. What are the things based on a full career, a lifetime of basically giving back, do you want people to walk away from the film, from going to your website, from participating in Lesbian Visibility Week? What would you like people to walk away with?
That one person can make a difference by stepping up and doing something for the community. You can make a huge impact on somebody's life, whether it's you show up in an event and you are visible to other people, or I mean, you start a lesbian magazine, or you be kind. You know, that's our whole kind of motto, and it's always been since the magazine began. It's like be kind to one another. I'm sure that was something maybe that Ellen said or something, but maybe I said it first. I don't know. It's kind of my life motto. Besides that, don't take no for an answer is my other life motto. You know, we are so much stronger as a community when we stand united. When I believe our opposition wants us to pick against each other, and it's all done with smoke and mirror. Like, don't pay any attention to this. Let's all concentrate on how bad the trans community is and how they're ruining everything. And if all of us stood up for the trans community, can make a very united statement. Like, Lesbian Visibility Week is inclusive of trans women.
That
I
is
feel
important.
no need to do anything negative towards any of my community members, but lift them up. That's it. And I hope everyone can take away a little bit about that, because I'm not getting less because somebody else in our community might get something. That
So
wasn't very articulate, but I hope people get the idea of what I was trying to say.
it wasn't inarticulate, I assure you. Uh, since we've been doing this, our gala is called Standing on the Shoulders of Heroes. Our exhibit that we have traveling around is called that. Whose shoulders do you personally feel that you stand on?
So many people. Wow. The first person that comes to mind is Barbara Greer, who was the closest thing I had to a mentor. She was the publisher of a press called the Naiad Press, and they produced lesbian pulp fiction and lesbian, fiction for years and years. And I remember when I first came across a lesbian novel, and I was like, "Oh my God, there's whole books about these things." Having her do that uh, let me know that I could do something like Curve. Um, I also stand on the shoulders of the women who made great impacts politically in our community. Uh, I don't know if you've gotten the chance to see Urvashi Vad's short film called We Have Things to Do, or We Have Work to Do. It's 20 minutes long. I don't know how you can get the license to watch it. Incredibly powerful. she definitely was a role model for me. Gone too soon before her time.
She's also
All
one of
the
our heroes.
Yeah, she's incredible. All the writers, the activists, um, anyone who's said our community names out loud, the people that are no longer here in our community, each one of them has led us to this point. And what we do with it, that's our choice.
That was well put. No, I think that the community success is because it's come from a combination of all the movements that came before it. The labor movement, the civil rights movement, the women's movement. Uh, and interestingly, some of the most successful people from those movements who happened to be LGBTQ plus and were forced out of their own movements gave the gay, lesbian, bi, trans movement legs that other movements didn't have because we often got the best because they were finally looking for a place where they could be comfortable and be home. And when you get the likes of Bayard Rustin on your side, uh, who single-handedly did so many things, how could you do anything but succeed? And when you look at during the AIDS crisis, the lesbians that stepped up and removed themselves from the oppression that they had received from the male community so much of the time. And they stepped up and they took charge of some of the national organizations and certainly local organizations and made them hum into a success that nobody had seen before. It really does show how much we've learned from others in other communities and how we have successfully brought them into our own. For me, there was a New York woman, she was a developer. Her name is Joy Thompson. She also makes films. Uh, she became the head of GMHC. She did this, she did that. She was everywhere. And so I agree completely that it's the people who stood up. It's the people who said things out loud. It's the people who did not let fear get in the way of them moving this community forward. And you are
But
one
people,
of them.
oh, thanks. But people who, I fully acknowledge that there are people that are not ready to come out yet, people that aren't ready to visibly stand up for our community, but they can stand up by helping organizations like ours do the work that we're doing.
No, absolutely. There's always a way to do something. And there's
Exactly.
always a way to be kind.
Be kind.
And I think that that fundamentally makes all the other things possible. If we give people grace enough to be kind, the world changes. I mean, I said, people will say, well, what can I do? I said, say good morning to someone, hold the door. That changes their whole day. And if you do that, that's a miracle.
Mm-hmm.
So I go out very early in the morning to do my walk. And I work very hard at, there are not many people out at 4 o'clock in the morning, but I say hello to just about every single one of them and or good morning. And you see the reflection in the dark of when someone acknowledges that they're there, many of them are homeless. And when they get recognized for just being a human being, it really is important. And so, what you do in the magazine, what you do with uh, Lesbian Visibility Week, what you are doing with the Power List, what you do with the magazine, uh, contributes to that in so many ways. And all those facets have the potential to change so many lives. And congratulations to you because it's really quite spectacular.
Thank you so much. One day at a time. That's all I can put forth.
Well, and also one person at a time. You know, like you said, it's one person can make that difference.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
What is the driving force in the last couple of minutes that we have
The driving force for the Curve Foundation?
for you?
Oh, for me. Oh, wow. Just a little bit of existentialism before you leave the driving force is to leave this place better than I found it. Simple.
Do you feel that you've done that or you're close to it?
It's something that I wake up every day and I make a point of it. So is it complete? No. Um, I don't do this so that I could have a legacy. Um, I do it because I love our community. It's given me personally so much joy and belonging in my life, and I'm lucky. I'm lucky to be in the position that I'm in. You know, and having chronic pain makes me really appreciate the small things. And um, one small gesture, like you said, saying good morning or holding the door open for somebody, whether that's in reality or holding the door open for somebody else, the next people that come along, priceless.
Well, I appreciate your pricelessness. And thank you for spending time with us. And hopefully, we will get people to fill out the form for the power list. And hopefully, there will be people that will participate in Lesbian Visibility Week. I've had trouble with my tongue a few times tonight. And I just want to thank anybody who has taken the time to join us. Thank you. I'm Robert Kesten, Executive Director of Stonewall National Museum, Archives, and Library. And you can find us at stonewall-museum.org. And have a good night. And thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks, Robert.